Welcome back to the Alpha Evolution. I'm your host, Coach Justin. I'm going to talk to you a little bit today about delusion, darkness, and leadership. There's a quote by Yoda from Star Wars that says, "When you look at the dark side, careful you must be, for the dark side looks back." And you see, in order to be a truly effective leader, you have to look at, explore, and accept your darkness. Like what Jordan Peterson says, to become a monster, you must become a monster. And then learn how to live like that in an effective way. Because when you do, that's when you can become a true leader of yourself. How can you lead yourself if you don't know fully what that self is and what it's capable of? You must look at your scars, your wounds, your warts, and accept all of them. Trying to be this superhero good guy will do nothing. Being Clark Kent will hurt you more. Trying to come off as perfect will hurt you more. It will not turn you into someone who is adored. It turns you into a simp. It turns you into the placating hero where you are caping for all these women. No, do not be Superman. Don't be Clark Kent. Go for Bruce. Batman. You see, the big difference between those two is that Bruce explored and accepted his darkness. He accepted that part of his insanity. And then he figured out an effective way to express it that helped others. He lived his truth. Clark, on the other hand, he has darkness. But he ignores it. He buries it. He doesn't give it any mind. And therefore, he is not complete. This type of man cannot exist. He's not going to be a man. Bruce is a man. Batman is a man. And when you are this way, people will not like you. You will lose friends. You will lose family. You will lose business associates. You will lose women. It doesn't matter. Because living true to who you are is the most rewarding things you can possibly do in your own life. I'm going to lie on my deathbed knowing that I was not a liar to myself. Can you do that? Or are you afraid? See, because simps are afraid. They want the approval and validation from other people to fill that hole. You know where that hole comes from? That hole comes from not accepting who you are. Not looking in the mirror and saying, "I'm a selfish bastard." These nice guys, these simps, they're afraid to accept the fact that they are selfish. Most humans are. True altruism does not exist. Not in a pure form. Now, I'm not saying that people can't be altruistic. What I'm saying is that pure altruism doesn't exist. There is always an element of selfishness. But to truly get out there, to truly be that guy, to be that guy that other men respect, fear, and wish they were, and the guy that women want, you have to accept your darkness. And it will look you back in the face. And when you embrace it, it's not going to feel great. Not at first. but there will be a feeling like it says back at you, you took long enough. I've been waiting for you. And that is when you start the real journey to becoming who you are. Women who want to be led, which I would argue is most women, this is the kind of attitude that they are looking for. And the way am I seeing it is that what it does is it prevents delusion. Because you are taking yourself for the reality that you are. You are looking yourself clearly in the mirror and seeing who and what you are. And you're able to act accordingly. Now, this is where the delusion part comes in when it comes to women. Women are excessively delusional. I think almost that they can't help it. Are there women who can break free of that? Of course. By and large, generally speaking, women are delusional. They are lost in dreams. They are lost in fantasies. They are lost in your ability to lead them out of that. And in their minds, they're thinking, there's a man that's going to fit into this delusional fantasy. And there are. They're called white knight simps. They are the Clark Kents. They are the Supermans. They actually think these men exist. They don't. A real man who is about himself, who understands what leadership is and how to lead, who is not afraid of himself, who embraces every part of who he is able to break through her delusions and tell her what the fuck time it is. He does not pander to her because guess what? He does not need her. I do not need a woman in my life. There is no you complete me. There is no you are my everything. There is none of that nonsense. If she is here, it's because I've chosen her to be here. While most guys, the Clark Kents of the world, say that they got lucky. No, girl, you got lucky. Because within 5 minutes, you're going to realize that I am not like any other man that you have ever met. And that is because I know who I am. I've embraced my shadow. I've looked at my warts. I've looked at my wounds. I've looked at my scars. I know where they come from and why. And I love them all. Most guys, the Clark Kents of the world, want to try to portray themselves as they don't have these things. That they are healed. No, you're not healed. Because in order to heal, you actually have to look at these wounds. You have to accept the darkness. And it doesn't go away. It becomes integrated. That's why in psychology they call it shadow integration. Because you can't rid yourself of your shadow. You cannot rid yourself of darkness. And when you ignore it, it just makes things that much worse. You must look it dead in the face and pull it in and embrace it. And when you do this, bullshit goes away. You can no longer bullshit yourself. And when you can't bullshit yourself, you can't get bullshitted by other people, especially women. They can see it, they sense it, and maybe not at first, but they will love it. It becomes a hurt so good sort of feeling. Sometimes you'll get that response like, you're an asshole, but they'll do it anyways. This can and often will turn into joyful compliance. What can I do for you today? It would make me happy. So you task her. As a leader, you need to give your woman tasks. Because the only reason why she is there is because you notice value within her. Something about her, things that she does, her attitude, her willingness. That is what allows a woman to come into your life. Not because she's attractive. There's tons of attractive women in the world. What can you do for me? And I'm not asking you, I'm examining you. It's not a question for the woman to answer. I'm questioning myself. What can this person do for me? Let me take a look. Does she have qualities, traits, and characteristics that can benefit my vision? If not, I'm either going to keep her around for just sex or I'm going to cut her loose. Depends on how I'm feeling. But if I am going to keep her around for sex, it is going to be completely clear that that's what she is here for, nothing more. And then I will leave her the choice to come and go as she pleases. It's not that big of a deal. It's just a bit of ass. But she needs to understand that she isn't what I'm looking for in terms of anything committed. And trust me, when you have that sort of clear and concise communication with a woman, she may not like to hear it, but she'll respect it. And it'll become clear quick to her that she's not going to be able to change you. Because a lot of women are delusional in that way too. They start thinking that they are so magical. And she'll start thinking of you as some sort of project that she can convert you to her program. But I'll tell you what, her program is just a vision. It's a fantasy. As I said before, women can't have programs. It's just impossible. Just like a woman can't be an alpha. So just understand this, fellas. If you want to lead, you need to know who you are. You need to bring out your coldness and accept it, embrace it. And then, in my opinion, it's best to take that iron fist that you've exposed and put a velvet glove on it. Because too many guys are out here thinking that they can lead with just an iron glove. You can't. I'm sorry, but Clark Kent cannot lead. You see how he has two vastly different personalities, Clark and Superman. Now look at Batman, Bruce, and Bats. They're essentially operating as the same person. Just one of them wears a cape and is a little bit more like physically violent. But I guarantee the way Bruce operates in business is probably equally as cold and violent. He's the same person. He's just wearing a different costume and expressing himself slightly differently. But where it comes from is the same place. That's how you need to be, gentlemen. You're the same, no matter what your company, no matter what you're doing. The expression of how that comes out is contingent upon the context that you're in, but it's still coming from the same core. And when you lay it down, this is what I expect of you to a woman. She may not like it, but there will be respect. Because you must have that attitude of there will be respect. And if she doesn't want to get on your program, fine. It's not a big deal. You don't argue with her. You don't push and pull. None of that nonsense. You just lay it out. This is what I want. This is what I expect. You can either get on it or get off. Because the train is going. I don't have time to negotiate with you. It's not that big of a deal. I don't need you. You want someone who needs you? Go find a needy guy. I guarantee you're not going to like him. He might make you feel better. He might pump up your ego. He might make you feel validated. But not like how I can make you feel validated. A person like me, they will tear apart your ego. And then build you up stronger in ways that you could never even imagine. You're not special until I make you special. Call that conceited, call that misogynistic. It is what it is. It's the truth. What you think is special is not special. People say, oh, she's a baddie, she's a 10. There are no baddies, there are no 10s. You're bad when I make you bad. You're a 10 when I make you a 10. In fact, I'm not going to make you a 10, I'm going to make you a 12. I'm going to break through your glass ceiling. And that only is able to be done if you have learned and accepted your darkness, formed an iron fist, and put a velvet glove on top of it. Because that iron fist is what allows you to break molds and carve paths. The velvet glove is what allows for healing, encouragement, and growth. I'll leave you with a little story of mine about that, about breaking someone and then growing them or encouraging them. So I spent some time living in a Shaolin Buddhist monastery in upstate New York. It's the type of place where we train for 9 hours a day. 3 groups of 3-hour training, so 3 sets of 3. It was grueling, mentally and physically and emotionally. The whole idea of this type of training is to break you down and then to build you up. And my teacher was relentless. He was also very loving and kind. He was a unique man. He was half black, half Chinese, short, muscular build. He studied the Eagle Claw method. And that means his fingers were extremely tough. I watched him train in a park where I saw him ripping the bark off of a tree as though it were made out of paper. But also very loving and kind, but clearly able to do massive damage to someone. His teacher only had an iron fist. As a teenager, he was brought into fighting pits with bikers who dealt drugs and firearms. They had no holds barred fighting where people would bet, bare knuckle boxing. And he would take my teacher as a teenager and throw him into that pit and say, you better win because I have $1,000 on you. Here he is, a teenager fighting grown-ass men. He went through hell. And it wasn't until he discovered Buddhism that he created his own velvet glove. So here's the story. He liked to drink. He was very fond of drinking, partying, laughing, having a good time. He had a jovial personality because he had faced his shadow. He had embraced his inner demon, made peace with it, and therefore was able to use it when necessary. So we're out at this bar because I was the only one in the temple that was old enough to drink, and there was a funk band playing, and we're just at the bar talking, having a good time. And because of his unique look and his reputation being half black, half Chinese, and wearing a queue where he shaved the front of his head and then grew hair out the back, he was able to draw a lot of attention to himself. And so this guy came up behind him. He had this bad attitude, wanted to pick a fight with him. My teacher turned and looked at him, ignored him. We went back to drinking, having a good time. The guy did not like it. He came up to the side of his face, started talking shit into the side of his face. Okay, now you're invading space and you're asking for it. He said something probably like, please just back off. I'm just here to have a good time. The guy didn't want to hear it. Got into his face again. So, in a moment's notice, he moved slightly to give a little bit of space between him and the guy, and in a flash, he flicked his hand up, hitting him in the mouth with his fingernails. The guy didn't even see it. I barely saw it. And he ended up breaking the guy's front teeth. Blood coming out. The iron fist had come out. Smashed up the guy's teeth. Then while he's holding his mouth, blood coming out, he calls to the bartender for a towel. He gives the guy the towel. He puts it up into his mouth. He starts talking to him. I can't hear what he's saying. Calls the bartender again. Bring 2 shots of Jack, 2 beers. He gives the guy a shot, gives the guy a beer, and they start talking. Next thing you know, my teacher's got his arm around him. They're joking, laughing. The velvet glove has been put back on. He's now making the guy feel good. He just knocked the guy's teeth out. And now they're laughing it up. Granted, I'm sure being inebriated had something to do with it. But the fact remains is that he pulled the glove off, showed what was up, what was capable, then put the glove back on and led the situation. He led with both. He led all the way through the situation to where he wanted it to go. He did not want it to turn into a fight that led outside because he knew he would destroy the guy. He didn't want that to happen. He led it to where he wanted it to happen. He wanted to stop the guy's anger and violence, and he wanted to bring a more positive situation to the environment. He wanted it to squash. So he's like, I can either turn this guy into a friend or I can turn him into an enemy. I'd rather break him and then turn him into a friend. And that's exactly what he did. And that's exactly what you need to do when you're dealing with women. You need to break their nonsense, break their delusions. Like this guy thought that he could take my teacher. He broke that delusion. You need to break their delusions and then put the glove back on for those that are worthy and bring them to truth. Bring them to your care. Bring them to your encouragement and your growth, should they be worthy of it. Because not all are worthy of it. But only you can determine who is and who isn't. And that starts with not being swayed by their beauty. Of course, all the women you talk to should be attractive to you. But the determining factor is, are they coachable? That's how you should be looking at women. Can they take your direction? All right, until next time, peace.